This is a photo that was taken by someone, okay, in 2012, the same year that this burned, okay. This is like some kind of artistic photo or something like that somebody took of this archway. That's the archway right there. So that's it right there. And it actually does look really good. I mean, it's really pretty. There's this interesting cross symbol right here. I don't know what that means. It's pretty, you know, and with this gate there, I mean, it's pretty creepy, really, but yeah, it's pretty. I guess we're dealing with a situation of bias here, you know, because I grew up in the building that I grew up in, and I never lived in that other building, you know. I guess that's why I'm just so flippantly like, yeah, just I would have torn that down. If I built these properties, you know what I'm saying, this property, that building just wouldn't be built with a flat roof, man. You know, maybe I'd build it, but it just wouldn't be built with a flat roof. You know what I'm saying? It would be built with a regular, normal roof, and that wouldn't be true to the reality of what the building was. You know, the history of this. It just wouldn't be true to the reality of it if it didn't have a flat roof. But flat roofs, dude, are absolutely freaking criminal. Okay, dude, listen. In North Atlantic, Canada, my family had a vacation home up there, okay? And the building that we lived in had been a school. It had been an elementary school. So my dad has this thing with, you know, buying properties to live in that were like not originally houses, you know, is like basically what's up with that. So the school building, dude, it had a flat roof, and that was a real problem, okay? Because in nature, flat areas, especially flat areas with boundaries that like stick up from it, you know, it's a basin. In nature, they get filled with water, okay? That's what happens to a flat roof. It gets filled with water. And even if it's not filled with water, the water stands in some areas, in some spots. It just does. And that wreaks incredible havoc on the structure. And dude, one time, dude, we had been gone for a couple years from this vacation property, a few winters, okay, wherein God only knows how much snow just sat on the roof and then melted on the roof, okay, with no outlet, in a place that's cold and does not have a lack of humidity. I walk into one of the rooms. It's this big classroom with a chalkboard, and I'm going. It was like a customary thing to go and draw on the chalkboard when you first got there, right? So I walk into this room to do that, dude. I get to like the center of the room and I'm about to start drawing on the chalkboard, and the fucking floor starts collapsing under my feet, okay? I'm literally running out of the room on the floor cracking behind me, dude, and like literally almost fell through the fucking floor, which would have been into the gymnasium, okay, in the friggin' basement or whatever of this place. Actually, it might not have been the gymnasium I would have fell into. It would have been like, because there were rooms beyond the gymnasium, like the whole fucking thing. Like, we're not going to get into, this is not a my childhood home, like, situation. I mean, it was an interesting place to live or whatever, and some weird shit did go down there. I actually did see a ghost there, outside of my, bedroom door, because the room that I had slept in had been like, I think the principal's office or something. So the door, like there was a door, but it had like a big pane of glass in the middle of it, just clear glass. It wasn't frosted glass. It wasn't anything like that. It was just glass, like in the middle of the door. And one night I was laying in bed and I saw someone walk by it, and my parents were not up and around, like they were in bed, they were asleep type shit. And it wasn't either one of them, you know. So there was somebody who walked by the door, and yeah, and then there was some other stuff too. Like there was some other stuff too that went down there. We're just certainly not talking about that right now. They basically sacrificed a dependable roof, okay, for having another story on this building, is what I really, really, truly believe in my heart and soul, okay. And because of that, it cost them. That was the building that made everything like look worse, basically. Some mistakes were made in history that shouldn't be made in the future. Do you know what I mean? And giving a building a flat roof is one of those things. So I don't want to act like I have no respect or empathy for the big rectangular building, but I do not appreciate the builders or whoever had it built, you know, and whatever decisions they made that were based on something that was not, in my opinion, respectable, like wanting to give it another story rather than giving it a dependable roof that would last the test of time, you know, better, right? Because this building right here, it was kind of fucked up, but it was nothing on the level of this building. Absolutely nothing on the level of that fucking building, dude. This building had its issues, you know, especially because the roof was old. I don't even know when the roof was like ever changed or worked on or nothing like that before my family bought it, and we certainly never put a new roof on it, you know. For example, you know, there was some spot work done on various areas of the roof when problems would pop up, right? But it was like, I don't even know how old that roof was, man, for real, you know, and it was doing pretty fine considering that fact, right? But this one right here, homie, building was collapsing from the water damage on that roof. That building was over here at this part right here was collapsing from all of the water damage because of that flat roof, and that's all I'm saying. And do you really think that having a flat roof like that and having that ticking time bomb going on there with a building doesn't affect the vibe of it? I don't know how this building felt, okay? I never lived in it, you know, not really. And it's like, I don't know what it was like. You know what I mean? I don't know what it felt like, but I do know, dude, that the closer you got to it, okay, so this side of the house, toward the middle part and toward that, the farther back you even got in this house, man, the more whack shit started to feel, okay? I can tell you that. I can tell you that. Like, I love this building, and I love everything about this building, okay? But it is not any bullshit when I tell you that the further back you got and the closer you got, okay, like beyond this point, the more whack the vibe got until you approach this area where the vibe was whack. And then over here, I don't know. I don't know what it felt like, but I can only assume that it must have been even whacker, or at least just as whack as the middle part. Maybe not, though. Maybe it wasn't. I have no way of knowing, and I'm not even going to pretend like I do, okay? So that is very pretty. I'm not going to front. It is pretty, you know, and I remember thinking it was pretty whenever I looked at it when I was a kid and stuff, and there was also a plaque over on this side of the building that said 1910. So that's how I know, like, that's how I've always known that that's when that was finished, is 1910, right? There was a singer back in the mid-90s, I think his name is Brian White, because there was Bryan Adams who sang, like, Take Me Back, Won't You, or whatever that song was. And that was like a bitchin' song, but this wasn't him. This wasn't the guy who sang that song. I think his name is Brian White. Okay. Anyway, his team came and took photo shoots of him somewhere around this building. I don't know where or whatever like that. But if you go and you look at like his album covers and some of his promo, like, photo shoots and stuff from like the mid-90s, like some of the settings that he was in looks like some shit like this, but I don't know if they ever ultimately used whatever photos they took here. They brought us an autographed CD of his, and they came around and they were like, we took some photos over here, and you know, we just want to thank you for letting us do that. You know, here's an autographed CD. It would have been fucking killer for some photo shoots. I'm kind of miffed that I never went outside. I just simply never went outside and took photos of myself. Like, I just didn't, you know? Like, I just didn't, dude. I mean, I should have, just because, you know, outside, the photos of the outside would have been, you know, it would have showed what the building looked like and stuff out there, you know, in certain parts of it where there's no pictures of it, you know, especially over here and down this way, you know, toward all of this. It would have been super, super cool if I had gone and taken pictures outside, you know, but I just never did, you know. I just never took pictures outside, so I wish I had. Another thing is, okay, let's start from the beginning. So this is the original building. This is, in my heart and soul, all that there is, okay, truly. And you can think about that how you want to think about that. This building, that's what it's all about. You know, before that big rectangular building came along. And I understand, you know, that this building, I get that it wasn't really big enough to be like a hospital on the level that they wanted it to be back then. And that's why they built another building, you know what I mean? I get that, you know, and I wouldn't want anything interfering with the effectiveness of this place originally as a hospital. This building right here looks a whole hell of a lot more like it's suited for a shitload of surgeries and patients hanging out in rooms and stuff like that. That looks like it's way more suited to that. What I'm trying to say is I don't know exactly what function my childhood home, my part of this property. I don't know what function it served. Like what kind of medical stuff was like going on here as opposed to here. You know what I mean? Was this where they did all the main stuff? I was 17 here, probably. Pretty sure. I don't know. Does it say? It says 2007. Anyway, man, my point with this is look at that up on the door. It says it's room 89. You know, this is room 89. Well, this was upstairs in where I said I wanted my apartment to be. That bitchin' fucking apartment with that doorway on the balcony of the second floor of my childhood home. That's where that is, and I wanted that to be my apartment so effing bad, dude. But apparently this is room 89. So I don't know, like, what was what in this hospital and like what was used for what. Like, I really don't know. And I would say that a room like this, you're not having any operations going on in there. You know, that looks like more of a place where like patients would be or something. Like, I'm not sure, you know. I don't know if I've already showed this, but this is me on the stairway up at the top of the stairs. It's one of those MySpace mirror pictures. This is a medicine cabinet in the apartment. Well, this is a picture of in the attic. And I was thinking, like, I don't know if I showed you guys this, but look at this. It's like a little bed or something. It looks like a baby bed, maybe. Is that a baby bed? And it's got clothes. Dude, look at that coat. It looks like a coat with fur around it. I mean, it's just absolutely strewn with clothing. And I've been trying to think, do all these clothes look like they came from the same person? Is this like one person's like whole clothing collection from the 70s that just ended up in the attic somehow for some reason of my house? Like, I ain't really sure. Some of these look like men's clothes. The other ones look like women's clothes. So I don't really know where all these clothes came from. And like, why the fuck are they just strewn around? You know what I mean? Like, This is a picture of me by the glass front doors at the front entrance. So they were just like metal and glass doors, like business doors. Yeah, dude, some of these pictures when I was a teenager and stuff, I was like popping off, dude. And so there are pictures of what some other stuff looked like, but it's it's me in the picture being, you know, not presentable to show to, you know, anybody basically. So I can't show those pictures. This is me in front of the main glass door inside that little entrance area where there was another glass door that led into the front. But look at that. Like, look at this old, like, piston thing on this door, dude. These doors, man, I don't know when they were from. I don't know when they were from. I don't know if you can date when they were from by that piece. But yeah, those were the glass front doors, dude. I fucking loved this front entrance area. I can remember the way the doors sounded. I can remember how it sounded. Look at this. This jacked up as fuck bathroom. That was upstairs, like, in our part, you know. And that looks rough. I ain't gonna front. It does. So this is me in the kitchen. This is the doorway, one of the doorways of the kitchen. This is the doorway where I saw the ghost pass by and the baby was in the bouncy thingy. And there's a ladder in this picture, as you can see. I don't know how old I am here, maybe like 7 or 8 or some shit, you know. But the point of this photo, dude, was this huge ass fucking magnet, like, just stuck to my chest, dude. Hardcore, like it just stuck right there, and it was like strong. Okay, it was not coming off, and I was just playing around in there while my dad's working, and I stick this magnet on my chest, and then I'm like, look, blah, blah, blah. And my dad was like, what the fuck? I don't know if he thought that, like, that was, like, not normal for a magnet to, like, stick to your chest or stick to your body like that. I don't know if that is normal or not. I have no idea, but he took a picture because he just thought it was wild. And as you can see in the way I'm smiling, I'm like, yeah, it's fucking weird, ain't it? You know, and I was whatever like that. But that's the hallway, dude. Okay, that's the hallway where the big gray apparition walked by the door, man. And I've got another picture to show you that is on some straight up MySpace shit. MySpace mirror photos. It honestly is kind of too bad I'm in the picture. And it's honestly kind of too bad that, you know, the flash is like fucking with it. But anyways, yeah, this is that hallway right there. And, you know, and that's the doorway to the kitchen. And then that doorway right there is the doorway that leads to the little room that goes upstairs that my dad built the stairway in and cut the hole in the wall, cut the doorway in the wall so we could access the main stairway. That's where that is. And so here's just another picture of me standing in the front hall. There was this big mirror in the front hall. This was like close to my bedroom door, and that hall is behind me. I don't know that I have a photo of the other hallway, and I certainly don't have a photo of the back hall, right? But there were 4 halls that all met each other at intersections. And yeah, so that seems to be the only hall that I actually really have a photo of. And all my pictures of the kitchen, there's just like a bunch of people in there. I don't really want to show that. I'm sure I will at some point. I'll probably just blur their faces out or something like that so I can just show what the room looked like. But this is a sign that was taped up on the wall in the apartment, like one of the bathrooms where I wanted to live, right? This is one of the bathrooms in the apartment, and it says, "Please turn off light when not in use. Thanks a lot." That's some 70s shit right there, for sure, dude. And this was the toilet with that like classic 70s like chartreuse green like fuzzy toilet seat. Here's the bathtub. Here it is. And there's the smiley face sticker. Yeah, dude. I mean, it was just iconic, dude. Like this fucking place, dude. Like that sticker, that's some 70s shit. No doubt. And this was another bathroom in that apartment, in the apartment I wanted to live in. Look at that, dude. Kind of rough looking, but it's a pretty bitchin' shower, dude. Like, I can see that being restored and stuff. And look, oh my God. Look at that old-timey doorknob on that door, dude. Oh, iconic, dude. Look at that. A fucking badass wooden door, dude. Oh my God, so old school. I love that old shit, dude. So this was a window in a room up there upstairs that was not in the apartment area I wanted to live in. This was like closer to where my dad had. This would have been, as you can see, it's the edge of the roof of that one of those shitty fucking 1-story buildings, pretty sure. It says, "This is a residence. Intruders will be, you have been warned." Okay. A paper sign hanging on the window upstairs. That was way, way late in the game. Way late in the game when we lived there. And things were just kind of continuing to, I mean, obviously they were continuing to degrade with that building, that flat roof building. And it was also, I wanted to talk about how, like, so I lived in this building, okay, and this 100-year-old building, dude, and I loved it, and I thought it was great, and I thought it was wonderful, but I, now as like a freaking adult, dude, thinking about like how much my closet, for example, over here was bothering me to think of it being full of crap that I needed to go through, sort, get rid of as much as possible type thing. Like, I was thinking about how much like mental like drain it caused on me to even have this closet full of crap that you know, I felt like I had to deal with that crap, you know. And I was thinking to myself, dude, like, imagine like how my dad felt or my mom, you know, living in that old ass building, and not really their part being the issue, but that middle part in the big rectangular building that's like attached to our home, being in the state that it was in, and only being separated, you know, by like a door, like that crossroads room in the back hall of our house was the door that led to that room, you know. And you'd go back there and you would look at that door and you kind of think to yourself, like, dude, beyond that door is like some abyss shit that, you know, ain't looking too hot, you know, fucking 10 years on down the line from the last time you saw it, and stepped foot in there and it was all kinds of fucked up, you know what I mean? Falling apart type shit, you know. And so it's like, and then the wall upstairs that my dad had built to close us off from that 2-story balcony thingy, and the big rectangular building beyond, you know, it's like just beyond that wall shit was probably not going too well, you know. So it's just like crazy to think about how much like stress you would actually feel, I think, if you were any like sane person would feel if you were living in a building like that, and then right next door on some shit that was your property and your problem, dude. Because like I said, he sold the big rectangular building at some point, and I don't know if that ever came back into our possession. I do know who he sold it to, and and it seems like that guy might have sold it to somebody else, but no one ever did a fucking thing with that rectangular building. Like, not a fucking thing, dude. Like, nobody, like, they would just own it and not step foot in it and not do a fucking thing to it. Like, literally. And I remember, dude, either the dude that he sold it to the first time or the dude that dude sold it to tried to go over there and do some shit to it, but he was like, oh, fuck this. Fuck this. Okay. I don't know the details of it, but he was just like, no, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. And I don't know. I never really talked to these people about this shit. Like, I was a teenager, right? I'm not going to be involved in any discussions about, like, fucking, property or whatever like that, And so it's just like, these were intimidating properties to own, especially because, we did not have the money to take care of any aspect of it, and especially toward the end. And this building, by the way, my childhood home, okay, it was for sale. It was for sale for years before it burned. Years, okay? A very long time. There was opportunity for somebody to come and step in and buy that property, okay? And do with it whatever they pleased. Right on the glass door, it says for sale, July 21st, 2012. This photo, honestly, was probably taken because it was for sale. So, I was just wanting to talk about how weird it was to live there and feel like, there's like all of this, like, your house is fine, but it's attached to some shit that ain't fine. You know what I mean? I know a fucking whole lot of ways, man. Yeah, so like a general sense of what it felt like, to live there is what I'm trying to explain. Coming home sometimes from wherever we had been, we were driving home and we approached the building, and the look of it and everything. And my home I always felt looked inviting, but the rectangular building felt ominous. It kind of looked ominous. And the whole thing, kind of because of that, just all of it together, right? It kind of looked kind of ominous, you know what I mean? But it was also home, right? So you felt like all of those emotions about it that you feel about home if you love your home, or you, if you have a good home or have a good home life and stuff like that. The emotions that you feel approaching your home, right, were there too, but it was also this weird dichotomy of like, this shit would be looking creepy, you know what I'm saying? It'd be looking creepy, it'd be looking big, it'd be looking unmanageable, it'd be looking all kinds of fucking ways and feeling all kinds of ways. The bathroom where we had our bathtub and stuff, because we had a bathtub, we had a clawfoot bathtub, and the bathroom would have been these two windows back here, dude. One was the regular bathroom that didn't have like it just had a toilet in it. And then the other bathroom is the one that had the bathtub in it. So there were two separate rooms, okay? And then this down here is, of course, where the big rectangular building sticks out. Well, right here, in somewhere right there, dude, is where they built that single-story apartment, like that it would stick out from the side of the boundary of my home. It would stick out a little bit, and the brick was like a little bit different. It was a little bit smaller, and it didn't look the same, and so yeah, my point is when I'd be in this bathroom back here taking a bath and stuff, it's just weird to think about how right beyond that wall, dude, was this fucking weird ass middle part, dude. I had all the experiences that I'd had in it, and like just how creepy it fucking was, man. It's just so weird to think that that was like just beyond the wall, dude. And then like those pieces, dude, of the big rectangular building, dude, like in later years and stuff, these pieces like of brick right up here at the roof where the water pulled and stuff up there would just fall, dude, right onto the roof of that single story area they built in the middle there. And like, to think about that just being like going on right there, just beyond like the wall and like the boundary of my home where everything was fine, Just like, and it really was like that building, like I could be honest if it was like super fucked up like the rectangular building was, but it wasn't. Some parts of it, the paint was chipping off the walls and it did look all kinds of fucked up, but it was nothing you couldn't go in there and scrape off. Shit tons of lead paint. Nevertheless, it's nothing you couldn't have rehabilitated. It wasn't a structural fucking problem. It was just cosmetic, basically. Okay. It could have been saved. It could have been saved. This old building that I care so much about, that was a hospital, albeit I don't know exactly what specific function the specific building served during the time that it was a hospital and stuff, right? Because it's a little, I mean, it's not small, but it's anyway, man, like, this building could have been saved. It could have been saved. If you couldn't save all of it, well, fuck, you could have at least saved this, So in the next session, I'm going to be telling a couple more stories, and I'm going to be wrapping up not too long from now on recounting all these events and the timeline of everything, and covering past the time when I moved out up to the time like 4 years later when the building burned. I'm going to cover all of that. This is just the beginning of this process, to be honest with you. But it was a crucial, incredibly important part of this process, too. It had to be done, okay? To tell you all of this and to just recount it as I experienced it and as I knew it. It was absolutely necessary, okay? And if this is all there ever is toward this effort, for whatever reason, this is good enough, okay? This is my duty, the bare minimum, base level, bare minimum of my duty done, okay? It is not by any means where I think that the story ends. It is not by any means that I think that this is where my duty to it ends. But I'm just saying that if I get hit by a bus or some shit like that, then I did my duty. Technically, having done this, I've done my duty, okay? Which makes me feel really, really good. But I also know that there is like a lot more work ahead of me to do. And it's not really work, really, but it is, total devotion that I'm going to have to this. And there's going to be methods involved here that are odd. And have been thinking about how I'm going to do this, in my mind and stuff. I've been thinking like, am I really going to do that? Like, to skip ahead to say this, but it's got method acting involved in it. And yeah, I just don't even know. I'm not an actor either, but I don't know any other way than to act things out. I think that imagination is important and the ability to pretend is important, and I'm going to have to like tap into that if I want to act out or get the ball rolling on the screenplay and like things that I'm going to need to basically channel the characters and tap into it and channel it, like hanging out, you know what I mean, in my own environment here, like I used to do when I was in my childhood home. I would just run around and play and dance and have fun all the time, pretending. Like I used to love Barney Miller, the TV show, and I remember one of the last hardcore things I ever pretended, dude, was I had my school desk and I had a nameplate on my school desk. And I would pretend the nameplate was like my detective nameplate on my desk at the precinct. And yeah, dude, like I loved doing that. And I would go around and like, act out, episodes and shit like that. So I think that, and that really did work for me. That was really good. So everybody has an artistic process, a creative process. And I think mine's going to involve some like hands-on kind of shit like that. I'm not going to be embarrassed, okay, or ashamed or nothing like that, because life's too short to feel any of those things. It's time to just be what we are and do what we do in this world.